Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Which is, that's a fantastic question. What I've learned during my time in office as mayor, we have been doing a lot of things and no one can point to the road. And so when I first inquired, why can't we have the call to prayer, no one had an answer. People said, well, we never did before. And so I follow the law, but I make policy. And so I spoke with the police commissioner and the deputy commissioner of community affairs and stated, let's put the pieces in place to make this happen, and that's what they did. And bring clarity. Clarity is the key.
Was it the lack of clarity that people weren't broadcasting the call to prayer because they weren't sure about the movement?
Right. There was no real clarity on if you could, if you couldn't, and the Muslim community wanted to make sure they abide by the law, and we brought clarity to it.
Earlier this year, there were a few mosques in Astoria that, for the first time, played their call to prayer. I know it was a process. I don't know if you or someone from the NYPD wants to speak to what that process and what that maybe learning experience was to broaden this to remove the permitting system to allow more mosques and houses of worship to.
Nope, didn't play into it at all. I talked about this on the campaign trail when I sat down with my Muslim leaders, my imams. When I visited the mosques and masjids, I talked about this over and over again. And so we're just continuing the same pattern of promise made, promise kept.
Assalamualaikum, brother.
Hey, brother, how are you?
Very well. I know that right now, Muslims around the world, New York has been followed worldwide, are happy. And that, as one of the brothers just said, the first person who made the announcement was Bilal. I know he's also happy. What we want to know right now is, why are you so much about faith? and what are you going to do about your administration? What are you going to do about hate crime that's still side by still gone?
Well, you know, my brother really pointed it out. You know, you gotta let go, let God. You know, there's no way I would have navigated the city out of COVID, crime, 104,000 asylum seekers without one family and child sleeping on the streets, turning back our economy, getting people back on our subway system in a real way, recovering 99% of our jobs, getting a AA bond rating by Fitch, saying it's a good place to invest, having 56 million tourists, 65 million predicted to come this year, decrease in shooting and crime. I wake up in the morning and I don't try to guess. I turn on my GPS, God positioned in satellite. Let go, let God. Yes, sir.
You just came from Jerusalem and you started breaking bread and building bonds. Is it something that you're going to expand to Muslims and Jews so that it can translate into peaceful coexistence in the Holy Land?
Well, let's be clear that what Assistant Commissioner Knight and Commissioner Fred Kreisman, Bahi, that whole team has done. I think we have a couple of thousand people who have already attended a breaking bread, building bonds. We started out with just doing 10 people at one table, all come from a different faith and religion. It has grown. I think the one that we did on Saturday, we had about, is it either Saturday or Sunday, we had about 400 people. Last night, there was one in Ozone Park. Hundreds of people are coming to sit down and reintroducing themselves to their neighbors. Breaking bread is just a simple way of just bringing people in the room. I think we underestimate the lubricating value of a meal, how it really takes down our defenses and really allows us to have a real conversation. We want to do 1,000 different events, and we are on target to doing that. They are doing an amazing job, and people are eager. We did one with the Department of Correction officers over the weekend. New York City Police Department held one. Each one of our precincts commanders are going to hold one. Our commissioners are going to hold one. The most challenging aspect of getting it done, we just can't seem to get our reporters to hold one. We want to get all of our news journalists, you know, maybe we can get Dana and I sit down at the table, break bread, and build bond together, you know?
You never get invited, so I don't know.
Mayor, this is Abu Bakr from Prime Television. We serve the Bangladeshi community. And it is a historic day for Muslim community, no doubt about it. But if anyone challenges this decision, how New York City will defend Muslim?
We're doing that every day. You know, there were some painful moments with the relationship with the New York City Police Department and the Muslim community. You know, coming out of 9/11, it was just a very difficult period. And I remember when a group of Muslim officers came to me while I was in uniform, and they were providing safety for the city, but their daughters and wives, because they were wearing a hijab, they were being attacked. And I met with those Muslim officers back then in 2001 and gave them my attorney, who started their first organization, organized them into an organization. And you know, we had to stand up, and we see the population has increased drastically, and the entire Muslim presence in the police department. I think there's a new day. Commissioner Caban is just well known in the Muslim community, and you know that defense is having a very clear offense that we're not going to tolerate any forms of hate, and we're going to continue to do that. It's about everyone living safely in the city and the right to worship in the city. How are you? You going to come to our breaking bread with anybody?
I absolutely will.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, I was reading, the city of Minneapolis broadcasts the Adhan 5 times a day, year-round. I know you don't like to be outdone by other cities. I'm wondering, how did you settle on just Fridays and during Ramadan? And was there a kind of a conversation of, you know, how many days should we do this?
Yeah, Bahi sat down and mapped out the exact way. I like to speak to the community and figure it out. You know, and that was what Bahi presented during the month of Ramadan. It's going to be at every sunset, and during the year it's going to be during Friday prayer. And I think that there must be a very clear understanding that out of the many towns, villages, and cities across America, New York could never be outdone.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Thank you for this decision. So, do you expect that maybe some part of non-Muslim people will not maybe like this decision or gonna make it wrong?
Well, this is New York. 8.5 million people, 35 million opinions. You know, no matter what you do in New York, there's always going to be the numerical minority that's going to say we should or shouldn't do that. The overwhelming people in the city respect faith and understand the power of faith. And I don't know who stated it, but it was clear. When you are in a masjid, a synagogue, a temple, a church, when you are praying, you're not going out to create harm or something. The more prayer we have, the greater we're going to be. And I don't care what anyone is saying, it's time to pray. We're in some challenging times with so many different levels, and prayer works. And so those who are going to in any way feel offended, these brothers and sisters from the Muslim community, they're going to invite them in. You know, people who are offended over the expression of worship, I believe they're in a painful place. And the only way you can heal that painful place, what I say over and over again, we have to move from being worshipers to practitioners. You know, let's engage in dialogue. Let's go to the community board meetings, the precinct council meetings, and let's invite people in our houses of worship. So yes, there will be those who will find a reason for us not to do it, and that's okay. We'll be all right. They will get used to the sound, and maybe some of them will come in and join in prayer. It's just time to pray.